Hi everybody, it's me, Mr. Movie Comic Lover, and I'm here to tell you guys some news about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I am 2 days away from receiving the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 1 Avengers Assembled box set, so I can show you guys. Now, aside from that, let us get to the actual news. Okay, and these news are somewhat bad or good, depending on what you like to hear and what others like to hear. So, I'm just, going from the source, from different reviews such as Latino Review, Comic Book Cast, Clever Movies, AMC Theater, so different places that I've researched and understood their kind of concepts and their kind of understandings. And for example, like AMC, there's AMC episode of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and one of the comments on the show was, why don't they have Spider-Man and the X-Men and the Fantastic Four? And I agree with them. It makes sense how, Marvel, and you gotta understand, Marvel has tried. They have tried. They have had coffee and donuts with Fox in this month, and then this month they had coffee and donuts with Sony, and they all had their discussions about what they can do or this and that. I mean, Spider-Man just barely got advertisements going on from Sony and Marvel, so they can do kind of like crossover brands, but not a crossover movie type thing just yet. The reason why is because Marvel are doing what is called, they're centering around the world with what their characters. And Spider-Man is centering around the world what Sony wants, as Fox has Fantastic Four and the X-Men. So it's a little bit, mumbo jumbo. And plus, it's very expensive to get the rights back. It's not like you can get the money and give them to Fox right away. You have to wait certain contracts so they can expire. And Fox at the moment are doing their own movie. They're doing what is called Days of Future Past. So they can't just stop that contract and do another thing. They have to complete their contracts. So, such as Spider-Man, when they did the reboot for a reason. Because if they didn't have done the Amazing Spider-Man, and they didn't do a new Spider-Man by the end of, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man was supposed to be 4, and they canceled it. So, pretty much everything from Marvel would have been just not right. Because a lot of the money that went towards Spider-Man, they're just not going to give up that property. Same with Fox and Fantastic Four and the X-Men. Aside from money, okay, you have to understand that each one wants to protect their own characters. Fox is selfish. Sony is selfish. Marvel is selfish. They're all selfish studios. They want their characters for themselves. I understand, though, that if Spider-Man and X-Men and Fantastic Four were in Marvel, they will be able to be more story arc. But that's not the case this time around. Because, if Spider-Man would go to Marvel, Sony would want Spider-Man to be the upfront character. Sort of like Mickey Mouse in Disney, where that's the mascot. The mascot in Marvel at the moment is the Hulk. He is the main attraction of the Avengers. The reason why it works so well in Avengers is because the Hulk was able to communicate with the other Avenger characters, the other superheroes. Instead of fighting villains that want to kill him and hurt him, in this time around, it's the opposite, where he can relate to them, but at the same time hold a great danger against them. And that's something that people need to understand. So if X-Men were in the Marvel, the X-Men would want to be in stage front. They would want to be in front of the whole thing, and Fox would want the whole thing on their terms, and that's what they would want. And Fantastic Four and this and that, and you don't want that. You don't want it all crammed up. You want it all to the point where everyone makes sense. Everyone works together in a great way. And the only way I see that for happening is if the contract's rights expired and Fox no longer wants to do X-Men, so they give it over back to Marvel by a certain date, or Spider-Man, for example. But the Amazing Spider-Man is doing really well, and the X-Men First Class did extremely well. So you're not just gonna throw that away, so you can do Marvel. Of course, we would love to see Marvel and all the characters together, but it's just not going to happen now and yet. Which means my next question. The arcs. No, a lot of the arcs are not going to be like the comics. If you don't understand, the first Avengers had Wasp and Ant-Man, Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man. Nope. Sorry. Not Captain America. Captain America wasn't in there yet. He was not one of the first Avengers yet. He was discovered like 4 issues after the Avengers. And during this situation, the first issue arc, Loki brainwashed everyone into thinking that the Hulk was bad. And so they went after the Hulk, and Hulk took them out and beat them up. And all this time it was Loki who was, the one behind it all. They finally realized it was Loki, and they banded together to stop Loki. Similar to the Avengers movie, but the difference was there was, the material, thanks to Joss Whedon, was able to exact it like the comic, but with the absence of certain characters such as Wasp and Ant-Man. For example, Loki trying to get everyone to tell him that the Hulk was going to get angry, and he was the reason why he was going to escape. And that's what happens in the comic. Not necessarily the same thing, but similarities, where the Hulk goes mad and rampages through the city, and yes, Thor comes and tries to stop him, and it's a big clash. And same thing happens in the comic, just a different story, a different way, a different take. But remember, it's not always going to be like the comics. Okay, this is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The material is from the comics. They're not going to put every little thing as a comic book. We're not watching a comic book. We're watching a movie. When you want to read Planet Hulk, you go to the store, buy yourself Planet Hulk, World War Hulk, and read them. You're not going to see the exact same thing in a Planet Hulk movie. Okay, so, not saying I don't want to see the Planet Hulk, because that was an amazing story, and Civil War was an amazing story. It's just the characters. The characters are hard to grasp, and at this moment, there's only a few characters out in the roster. And with us going back to the aftermath of the Avengers in Phase 2, I'm pretty sure it deals with the current roster that we have now and what they're going through. And in order for us to introduce new characters, it's going to have to be add-ons, not during the film, but add-ons out of the film or after the end credits, just to showcase some superheroes involved. Because remember, another thing is Black Panther was the first African American Marvel character. And I say this because he was the first, even in DC. He was the first. Before the Green Lantern character, the black version, was, before Black Panther, it was Black Panther, and then it went into Falcon and then